college soccer guy, how do I respond to coaches when they ask for my budget, when they ask for my transcript, when they've just said thank you? How do I respond to college coaches? Like, what's the best way to do that with every single situation? Let me tell you, I'm the college soccer guy, and I'm here to help you play college soccer. Let's get into it. So when college coaches start responding to you, we can assume you have stayed organized, created your list. If you haven't done that, go watch the other videos. You have created your template. You've sent your template. You have fixed your video before sending your template. And now you are responding to coaches. Okay, this is the most fun part of the recruiting process. And this is really why you should call me if you need help, because this is where things get nuanced. I have sent over 1 million emails and received over 1 million emails over the past 10 years doing this alongside my students. So I really know what coaches want to hear, what they need to hear, what you haven't said, what you should have said, what you're going to say, what they're going to say to you. And that's why I want to tell you what they're going to do. So in the responding process, there's a couple different types of responses they're going to give you. So let's start at the top. We've got the generic, okay? So they respond with, thank you so much for coming to our email process, or that's a bad example. They'll say more like, thank you so much for writing us an email. We reviewed your information and we would love to invite you to our college RD camp. It's on January 24th to the 27th and we'll see you there. Whatever, you get the idea. It's a robot. So if you can't tell, okay, then you also have to call me so I can help you decipher whether it is or it is not generic. Mainly if it's generic, they say nothing about you. Sometimes the coaches get really clever and what I would call like horrible. There's this one email, I forget which school sends it, or I'm not naming it on purpose, which is they say to this one player, they go, we really enjoyed your highlight video and your leadership on the field. And something about the way it was phrased just really rubbed me the wrong way. So I looked at some other students who also received the email and there were just too many. And for a coach to say we like your leadership through a highlight video, it just didn't add up. So I think they lied. I think that they did not watch his video, and I do not think they even know who he is. And still, you would think that's genuine. That's messed up. Like, that to me should be illegal to do to kids under the age of 18. It's just horrible. So you really want to be mindful of whether or not it was genuine or generic. If you're not sure, reach out to me and I have a team and we can decipher whether it was genuine or generic. So let's say you want to know how to respond to this generic email. So the way I have my students respond is you'll say, dear coach, thank you so much for the email. I would like to confirm you're looking for exposition for the class of X. Okay? That way you can then take the next steps. Do they want you actually? Did they really send you a message? Is it just an email list? Do they need your position? If they do, what does that mean? So that's really the best way to respond to the generic message. Very short, simple, one sentence, nothing else. Not even more video. You already sent your video, one sentence. Okay, that's the generic one. How do you respond to the genuine ones? Now, if it's genuine, there's a lot of different kind of genuine responses. So we're going to start at the top here. Most often, if it's genuine, they're going to say something like, we watched your video, we really enjoyed it, we'd like to invite you to our ID camp. Okay, so that's an invite to an ID camp. So the way you're going to respond to this one is, dear coach, thank you so much for the invitation. I've made a note of your ID camp. I look forward to keeping you updated with my schedule. Talk to you soon. So make sure if you watch the organized video, then you'll know how to stay organized and where to put their ID camp so that way you remember it. But this way you're keeping the conversation going. You may go to their ID camp and you're still in a relationship. Now, if you are going to go to their ID camp, then you should respond differently. You should say, I'll be at your ID camp. I can't wait to see you. Da, 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 da. So at this point now, you know how at the very beginning with our mass email, we spent a lot of time writing these emails. Now, we don't have to do that. Now you just get straight to the point and just say thank you. So that's that one. Now, let's say then, that's the genuine one for an ID camp. Let's now do a genuine one for a budget. They say, we really liked your information. We've actually seen you play at this showcase and we watched you at our ID camp. Could you tell us what your budget is? Now, this is a pretty tough one, right? Because you want a scholarship, so you don't want to say necessarily that you can afford the whole school because you're hoping you'll get a scholarship. At the same time, there's an important reason they're asking this question. So this is pretty in-depth. So if they ask you, what is your budget? What you want to first do is talk to your family and find out what your real budget is. Okay, the real number, not the one you're going to necessarily tell the coaches, but your real number. Like, what can you afford? What can your parents be willing to pay? Now, I can tell you right now, if your parents cannot pay or you cannot pay $20,000 per year to go to school, or 25, let's say, college soccer may not be right for you. Because even if you get a full ride scholarship, which is so unlikely, you're still going to have to pay for something. It's just travel, your parents coming to the games, food, more food. You never get enough food at college. So you have to anticipate you have to pay at least a minimum of that. So if you are underneath that threshold, you need to be looking at junior colleges or NAIA schools. Or what we call, there's another conference, which we can get, the USCAA, which have scholarships. So you have, which are like Division III level schools, but they have scholarships. So that's a bit more complicated. You can call me about that. Now, once you've determined what your real budget is, let's say your real budget is $60,000 per year, which would be huge. So let's shrink it. Let's say it's $30,000 per year for you to go to college. You can afford that. The best thing you want to say to the coaches, let me back up. The reason the coaches are asking this question are a couple reasons. One, for example, if you email George Washington, GW, every single time you get an email back from them, it's going to say to you at the very bottom, if it's your first email to them, how do you plan to pay for school at GW? Because it's very expensive, and they know that, and they want to get that out of the way to get with the get-go. The reason is they only have so much scholarship. They're not going to be able to give it to you statistically. It's going to go to somebody, but it may not go to you. And they want to know, can you afford the school? Because if you can't, they don't want you going, I'm only emailing you because if I can get a full ride scholarship. Because they just know the odds of that are just unlikely. They don't give full rides. They split up the scholarships they have between 30 people, and they only get 9.9 of them. So that's just not reasonable. So they really want to know, what is the budget? Like, can you afford to come to our school? Are you going to take out a loan? Those types of things. You don't need to get into details with that, but with your own family, you do need to get into the details with that. I come from a Jewish family, so like talking about our feelings comes very natural to us. If it doesn't come natural to your family, this is my sign to you to say, make it natural, because you're going to have this conversation. You have to talk about the money. So now you've said to yourself, okay, we are able to pay $30,000 to come to the school. You as a family know that. So why are the coaches asking that? One reason is they want to know, can you afford school? The other reason is they're saying to themselves, well, I know your GPA is a 3.5 and above. So in their head, they're going, traditionally speaking, our students with a 3.5 and above have received a minimum of 20, which means maybe if we give this kid $30,000, I know that their academics are going to cover a lot of the rest of it, and now this student can come to afford our school. So they're really just genuinely asking. They really just need to know what you can afford, because they do want to get you money, whether it's academic, athletic. They want to get you as much money as possible. Now, of course, if you're a top or higher level recruit, they want to give that person more money than somebody else. It is a business, and that is a real thing. So as a parent or a child, when you're responding to this message, you really want to go for the truth, because first of all, it's the truth. And second of all, it's not quite business. It's not like an agency with a professional soccer team where they're like, what do you want to be your first professional contract? And then you're trying to negotiate with your agent to get yourself a big number. It doesn't work like that. Coaches genuinely do want to get you some type of scholarship, and they just need to know how much you can afford to go to school so they can try and figure out how you can manage your school there. Now, let's say you can afford to go to school there, but you want a scholarship still. Well, then I would tell you, you are less likely to get recruited because you want a scholarship. You are more likely to get recruited at a school if you are willing to say, I can afford going to your school, because they don't need to then use scholarship on you. So if that's something you have in your back pocket where your parents have saved enough, or they're willing to take out a loan, or whatever it is, you should say that to the school and say, this is within our budget, and we can afford full tuition for the school, because you'll be more likely to get recruited by your dream school. Now, let's say you're the in-between. You're like, we can probably afford it, but it's going to be really difficult on our family, and we would like a scholarship. We would prefer a scholarship. Then I want you to tell that to the coach. Like when you respond back to their email, you're going to tell them the truth. My family have saved. We can afford between this and this amount, but to be honest with you, a scholarship would make a huge difference to our family. We will be applying to some FAFSA or academic scholarships also, but that's the reality of the situation we're in. So ultimately, the budget question is not a negotiation question. The new budget question is really just a place where you're going to tell them the truth about what you can afford. The negotiations, if you're like, hey, I want to negotiate and get myself a better offer, you can only do that when you have other offers. So let's say you tell them the truth. They say to you, we want to give you 20 to 30,000. They normally, if they email you and say what's your budget, they're going to respond, and you give them we can afford 20,000. They're going to say, okay, thank you for letting us know, and we look forward to staying in touch with you, which is genuine. They're like, okay, that's what they can afford. They're going to apply for other scholarships. Maybe I have some more money later. Maybe I have more money to give them. I'll get back to them. That's how that discussion is going to end. However, if you go and get other offers, which is why when we make that huge mass email list, I'm telling you to not just have the schools you want, because if you want to get a better scholarship, the best way to do that is through having other scholarships. So let's say you then turn to another school and they say, look, we love you. We want to give your son a full ride scholarship, which, by the way, they're just going to outright tell you if they want to give you a full ride scholarship. They're not going to ask for your budget first. They're just going to tell you, we'd like to give you $40,000 in scholarship, blah, blah, blah. And now you have an offer. Now you can go leverage that against the other team that asked for your budget and say, look, we explained this was our budget. This is difficult for us. We want to go to your school, but we did just get this offer. Is there something else you can help us with or provide us with? That's how you get scholarship money, not when they ask you what your budget. That's not the moment to negotiate this process. Now, I want to add one other thing. When you get a scholarship, the coaches are sending you a message, okay? It's kind of like getting a text message, or if I use a soccer term, if somebody lays a pass off to you, so that way you can hit it first time, when they pass that to you, they're sending you a message. They're telling you should hit this ball first time, right? It's a little softer pass. It's not really hard into your feet. Whereas if they ping it into you, they're like, you're going to need to take 2 touches because there's a guy coming. So that's why I'm pinging it into you. When a coach offers you a scholarship, it's not just the money. They're also giving you a message. They're saying, look, we think you're going to be a starter, or you're going to be a captain, or you're going to play a big role in this team. So for my people that work with me, we just had a student recently commit to Boston on the women's side, and she had a bunch of different offers. And Boston was her favorite school. So we leveraged the other offers against Boston or towards Boston to see if we could get more money. That was one piece of it. The other piece of it was we wanted an offer from Boston, but also we wanted them to tell us, where do you properly see us within our team? So tell us with money. Don't just tell us with your opinion about us as a player. So with Boston, there's a goalkeeper in this person's case. We said to Boston, I'm a goalkeeper. Where do you see me playing in this team? Am I going to redshirt my first year? Am I going to fight for a spot my first year? Where do I stand? And they said, look, we plan to give you a scholarship in your second season when you are starting. Okay, well now that's a message. That's money. And I'm going to be starting, theoretically. Now, things can change. Soccer, there's no promises, no guarantees, da-da-da-da-da. But the scholarship really was a message. Do you see the difference there? It was not just about money. And that's really why when you guys are in this process, if you've listened to this point, I would love to help you, because it gets really nuanced and complicated. And now the money is not just money anymore. It's a message. It's where do they see you within the team? And in my case, I was given a full ride scholarship. Half of it was athletic, half of it was academic. And I went there my freshman year and didn't play a minute until halfway through my freshman year. But I knew, because of the money I was on, that eventually I was going to play a role, because they weren't going to give me that much money if they didn't like me. Now, of course, when I got there, things could have gone sour and everything else can happen. But traditionally speaking, when you get a scholarship, it's very rare that it gets taken from you. For the most part, you just get more or you stay where you are. So that's the genuine responding to a budget. Should have been its own video. Now, what about if it's genuine and they ask for your transcripts and they say to you, hey, college soccer guy, let's say they say to you, dear whoever, we really like your video. If you're talking to the Ivy League schools or the NESCAC schools or the top D3 schools, they're going to say to you, thank you so much. Could you please send over your the transcript for a pre-read? So what does that mean? It means a couple things. One, the coaches are soccer experts, okay? But they've also become academics because they know what it takes to get into the school, because they've had a lot of people theoretically apply to the school. So the pre-read is to figure out, is there any money for this kid? Can they get into the school? So they're going to go theoretically give it to admissions and or compliance to figure out where this person lies. Also, college coaches get a score every year based on how many kids graduate and what they graduate with, and it's different for every school. So the coaches are like, look, I'm on a point system. Is this kid going to help me get more points, less points, in between points? Can I use this kid to then go get a kid that has less good grades? It's quite nuanced. So the pre-read is a good thing. If they're asking for a pre-read, that means they like you. I've never seen a pre-read where the coaches go, we saw your pre-read, and because of your pre-read, you're not going to be able to play for us. I've never seen it before. Mostly it's to find out if they can get into the school mostly on their own or the majority on their own, or that the school would approve the classes they're taking. Because sometimes some schools may, now most of you are taking the right amount of classes because your high schools do that, but sometimes they'll be like, well, you need an extra science class, and because we saw your pre-read your junior year, you still have time to fix that your senior year. So that's another reason why they do the pre-reads, to make sure you're taking enough classes. But the big thing is, when they ask you to send the transcript, do not wait. Send it right away. Like as soon as, like the moment they send that email, do not respond with, thank you so much, I'll get you my transcript. No. Go get your transcript, then attach it to that email. Again, for the most part, in all of my experience, they almost never bring up the transcript again. Mainly it's to make sure. Now, if you're in a Princeton or Yale or these top academic schools, they will probably want to know more, and they may even ask you about early decision and early action. So for those schools, it's a little different. But if they're asking for your transcript, if they're ever asking you any questions at an ID camp during the email, it's a good thing. It means they want to know more about you and they like you. Okay, that's great. Now, we've got the budget, we've got the transcripts, we've got the camps, we've got the generic camps. What else is there? So the phone call. What if they want to set up a phone call with you? They say to you, we really like your information, we'd like to get on a phone call with you. Sometimes they'll mention your family, but usually not. They'll say, we'd like to get on a phone call to set this up. So this is how you respond to that one. Dear coach, okay, always dear. Dear coach, I'm so excited to speak to you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Be overly gracious. Always be extra gracious. Then you're going to say, I'm available from this time to this time. However, I'm happy to arrange my schedule around yours. You always have to say it pretty much always like that. The reason is, if you message them and say, I'd love to get on a phone call, when's a good time for you? Which is what most people do. The phone call just never happens. They send you a time, then you send them a time, then you miss each other. Give them times that you're available, but be polite about it. Don't be like, here's when I'm available, I hope you call me. That's rude. You're going to say, here are some times I'm available. I know you're very busy. I'm also happy to arrange my schedule around yours. I look forward to speaking to you, but give them some times. And the way I learned this was when I was first helping students in the recruiting process. I would say things like, I would encourage my students at the very beginning, go, say, when is a good time for you? And then what would happen is the coaches wouldn't respond, or the coach would say, when is a good time for you? Or how does 4 p.m. work? And then you'd be like, 4 p.m. doesn't work. So it just didn't work. So now I spoke to a multiple Division I college soccer coach. I said, what's the best way to respond to this? So that way you actually do get on a call with them. And they said, look, please suggest times for us. We're so busy. We know you're so busy. Just get us started. Now, if I'm criticizing college coaches a little bit, I think all of this should be set up with automation. There's a website called Calendly, and that's how you book a call with me, and it's just set up. But their schedules are so erratic that it's so hard for them to be like, Mondays I do calls with students, because Mondays one of their players may have gotten arrested, and they can't do that. Like in my college, there was a kid that got arrested for partying too much. My college coach was very busy that day. So that's why their schedules are so busy. So please help them out and give them a time that makes their life easier, right? You want to make their life easier. Okay, there's still one more genuine response that you still might receive. This genuine response is where they say, thank you so much. I really look forward to staying in touch with you. And that's pretty much all they say. But they left their cell phone number. Okay, that's really good when they leave their cell phone number. So if they left their cell phone number, you're going to respond like this. Dear coach, I hope this finds you well. I really appreciate your email. I also sent you a brief text message introducing myself. The reason you want to get to text messages, getting to text messages is better than email. You're more in a relationship with them. It's fantastic. So you want to email them that you have sent them a text message. Then, before you send that email, right? So draft that email out. Then you're going to go to your text. You're going to see if their phone number pops up blue. If it's blue, it's an iPhone. If it's green, it could still be a cell phone, but it's less likely. Then you're going to text them. You say, dear coach, dear, extra, I don't care, it's a text. Extra polite all the time. Be too polite. Always too polite. Dear coach, this is so-and-so. We exchanged emails earlier. I just wanted to briefly introduce myself. I hope you're doing well. Now, I know some of you are like, well, I'm only a freshman. I'm only a sophomore. It doesn't matter. If they left their cell phone number, text them. Okay, they're human beings. They're allowed to talk to you. They're not allowed to recruit you. They're not allowed to be like, well, we want to give you a full ride if you're a freshman or a sophomore before June 15th. Unless it's a D3 school or an NAI school, then they actually are allowed to do that. So text them no matter what. That's the bottom line here. Text them no matter what. Okay, that pretty much covers all of the types of genuine emails you're going to receive and how to respond to them. Now, these are generic answers that I'm giving you, right? I don't know who you are. So if you would like more help with your situation, you know what to do. You're going to call me. Links in the description, links in the bio. So that way I can properly help you get recruited. Talk to you soon.